There are corners of this earth where the air seems to forget how to move, where every breath hangs suspended between one heartbeat and the next, and silence grows so thick it feels like something you could reach out and touch. A silence that hums in your bones, that makes even the birds hold their tongues, as if they too are afraid to disturb whatever ancient sorrow sleeps there. You can walk for endless miles through these forgotten places, where the world feels half asleep and half awake, as though the soil itself is trapped in a dream it can't quite shake off. A dream filled with memories too heavy to fade, too painful to be remembered fully. The wind drifts through the cracks of abandoned walls and empty valleys, carrying whispers that dance just beyond comprehension, words that brush past your ears like fragments of a language lost to time, lingering like the echo of a dream you wish you hadn't dreamed at all. Somewhere between dusk and dawn, when the light begins to thin and tremble, it spills over the broken stones and rusted gates with the fragility of something that knows it doesn't belong here, hesitant, shivering, afraid to touch the faces of ruins that have already wept enough to last eternity. It is said that in these lands, the living and the dead share the same breath, the same weary pulse of existence, as if life and death are merely two sides of one exhausted sigh drawn out across the centuries. You can taste it in the air, that strange metallic blend of memory and regret, the scent of rain that never fell, of prayers that were never answered, of stories buried so deep that even time forgot how to tell them. Every shadow that slides across your path seems to move with intention, as though it's remembering how to be human, how to reach for something it once loved and lost in the dark. Every step you take feels borrowed, as if your feet are tracing the ghosts of footsteps left by someone who never truly left, someone who still lingers in the dust, waiting for the story to start again. The trees bow inward, their gnarled branches arching like mourners leaning over an open grave, whispering condolences in a tongue older than sorrow itself. There's beauty here, yes, but it's a watchful, unblinking beauty, the kind that studies you in return, that measures the weight of your heartbeat and wonders how long you'll last. It hums softly when the night grows too still, a low vibration beneath your ribs, as though the darkness itself is testing your courage to remain, to witness, to understand. Some call these places cursed, others sacred, but perhaps those words mean the same thing here. Perhaps to be cursed is merely to be remembered too well by the earth. Time does not flow here. It folds in on itself. Slow, deliberate, eternal, until past and present blur into one long inhale that never seems to end. And if you stand still long enough, if you let the silence seep beneath your skin, you'll hear it breathing. The earth, the ghosts, the grief, all woven into one endless sigh that sounds almost like a heartbeat. Welcome, traveler, to the hidden world, where cursed places and lost souls linger together, waiting for someone brave enough to listen. Poveglia Island, Venice, Italy. Somewhere within the shimmering, glass-like waters of the Venetian lagoon, where the light dances and the horizon blurs into a hazy dream, there lies an island that even the wind hesitates to cross, a lonely fragment of land veiled in centuries of silence and dread, known to the world as Poveglia. They say that the mist surrounding this forsaken isle never truly fades away. It lingers like a living thing, as though the island itself is breathing, exhaling the sorrowful memories of thousands upon thousands of restless souls forever trapped beneath its cursed soil. Long ago, during the merciless years of the Black Death, When Europe trembled under the shadow of the plague, Poveglia became the place where the dying were sent to vanish and the dead were cast aside, their bodies thrown together in heaps so vast that the very ground beneath them began to groan under the unbearable weight of despair. It is said that the soil of Poveglia is no longer earth, but a grim mixture of ash and bone, soaked in the remnants of human agony, a graveyard so immense it hides itself beneath the disguise of an island. Those who have dared to listen closely swear that, on certain nights when the tide is low and the air turns cold, faint cries drift across the lagoon, voices carried by the water, echoing softly between the crumbling hospital walls that still stand in eerie defiance of time. In the 18th century, as if history hadn't already scarred this land enough, a psychiatric asylum was built upon those haunted grounds, a place meant to contain madness but instead became a vessel for even deeper torment. The patients who lived there spoke of shadowy figures gliding silently through the corridors, of cold, invisible hands brushing against their faces in the dark, and of screams rising from empty rooms where no living soul resided. The head doctor, a man consumed by his fascination with forbidden science, began performing brutal lobotomies with crude rusted instruments, believing in his deranged mind that by opening the skulls of the living, he might somehow exorcise the ghosts of the dead. But his madness grew, twisting upon itself until it devoured him entirely. Legends whisper that one moonless night, overwhelmed by the horrors he had unleashed, he climbed the bell tower and leapt into the darkness, though his body was never found. And the bell, they say, still tolls some nights when not a breath of wind disturbs the air. Even today, fishermen from Venice steer their boats wide around the island, refusing to let their eyes linger too long upon its outline, for fear that even a glance might call misfortune from the depths. Locals insist that no bird dares to sing there, And the plants that do manage to grow twist upon themselves, curling away from the light as if recoiling from something unseen. The government has long forbidden entry to the island, yet every few years, a handful of reckless explorers find their way through the mists and return pale and shaken, muttering that the walls still reek of smoke and sorrow, and that the very stones seem to weep. The decaying asylum remains, standing tall and skeletal like a monument to humanity's cruelty. Its windows dark and hollow, staring out across the lagoon, like the empty eyes of the damned. At dusk, when the light fades and the water turns to glass, those who watch from afar claim that the lagoon no longer reflects the sky, but rather the shifting silhouettes of things moving beneath the surface, shadows that have forgotten they no longer belong to the living. Those few who have dared to spend a night on the island speak of unseen footsteps circling their beds, of whispers breathing their names in the dark, of time itself twisting strangely, clocks freezing mid-tick, compasses spinning wildly, reality bending until it feels like a fevered dream from which one cannot wake. Many believe that once you set foot upon Poveglia, you never truly leave, that even if your body escapes, a piece of your soul remains behind, bound forever to the island's sorrow. The very air there feels thick and heavy, as though every breath must push through centuries of grief that no tide can wash away. To the Venetians, Poveglia is not just an island. It is the island of no return, a place where the living brush shoulders with the echoes of the damned. From afar under the sun, it may appear peaceful, the water glimmering, the ruins softened by time. Yet those who have stepped upon its soil swear that every heartbeat they take seems to echo the countless ones that stopped there long ago. And so Poveglia endures, abandoned, decaying, yet hauntingly alive, a forbidden secret floating in the middle of paradise. Perhaps some mysteries are never meant to be touched, for not all places on this earth are meant to welcome the living. Poveglia stands as a chilling reminder that the past never truly dies. It merely whispers, waiting patiently for someone foolish enough to listen. Aokigahara Forest, Japan. They call it Aokigahara, but those who have walked its silent trails, who have felt its breath and seen its shadows move, know it by another darker name, the Suicide Forest. It stretches endlessly across the base of majestic Mount Fuji, a dense and trembling sea of green that seems to flow like an ocean of leaves, concealing beneath its roots 1,000 stories that were never meant to be told. The trees here grow so tightly together that the sunlight must fight for every inch of ground it touches. And the deeper you go, the more the outside world fades away, until it feels as though you've stepped not into a forest, but into another realm entirely, one untouched by time or sound. They say Aokigahara consumes sound itself. Your footsteps grow fainter, your breath vanishes into the damp air, and even your heartbeat begins to feel like it's no longer your own. The silence is so heavy it presses on your chest. Not peaceful, but suffocating, like the air before a storm that never comes. The locals whisper that this quiet is not nature's doing, but the will of the restless dead, the spirits of those who once walked among these trees and never found their way back, now merge with the forest, forever listening, forever waiting. Long ago, before Japan became what it is today, this was a place of ubasute, a grim practice where the old, the sick, and the unwanted were left among the trees to die in solitude. Their bodies perished, but their spirits, it is said, sank into the soil and became part of the forest's very heartbeat. And so they remain, unseen but ever present, watching with eyes made of wind and whispering with voices that rustle the leaves. The centuries have changed the world, but not Aokigahara. When modern despair found its way to Japan, this forest offered the same quiet embrace it had always given, drawing to it those seeking an end, promising peace but delivering only more silence. Visitors today tell stories that cling to the mind long after the forest is left behind, of invisible footsteps following too closely, of sudden coldness that cuts through layers of clothing, of faint voices calling their names from somewhere behind the trees, urging them to turn back, or deeper still. Some explorers have stumbled upon strange relics, dolls tied to branches, staring blankly through the mist, left behind as offerings to soothe spirits believed to wander without rest. Others have found ropes trailing from tree trunks, left by those uncertain of their final choice, safety lines meant to lead them back if they change their minds. Yet for many, no rope is long enough. For within Aokigahara, even direction itself seems to dissolve. Compasses spin wildly. GPS devices fail. Batteries die without reason, as though the forest itself rejects the intrusion of human technology, demanding that all who enter leave the modern world behind. Those unprepared for its power soon lose their way, walking in endless circles, every tree looking like the last, until exhaustion and despair become indistinguishable. It's as if the forest bends space itself, twisting reality into a living labyrinth from which few truly return unchanged. The Japanese government now patrols the area, not as guards, but as quiet saviors, gentle souls who search for those on the edge, hoping to bring them back before the forest can claim them. At the entrance, signs written in bright colors plead with visitors to remember their families, to think of the people who love them, to choose life over the tempting stillness of the trees. And yet, year after year, the forest continues to take new souls, quietly, relentlessly, adding them to its unseen congregation of the lost. At night, when the wind dies and the fog thickens, even the animals go silent. The only sound left is the soft creak of branches swaying in the dark, like the sigh of something ancient and weary. Some claim to have seen motionless figures standing deep between the trees, pale, still silhouettes that vanish the moment one dares to blink. For Aokigahara is not merely a forest, it is a mirror, a vast reflection of humanity's quiet despair, showing back to us the pain we try so hard to hide. Perhaps that is why it endures, untouched and unyielding. As long as humanity knows suffering, this forest will remain awake, its silence echoing our most fragile moments. It stands still and eternal at the foot of Mount Fuji, breathtaking, terrifying, heartbreakingly beautiful, an ancient witness to the softest screams of the human heart. Pripyat, Ukraine. There is a wheel in Pripyat that stands still, a rusted circle of yellow steel, forever caught between joy and tragedy, suspended in a silence that feels endless. It was built to spin for laughter, to rise above the skyline as a symbol of childhood and celebration. It was meant to shine against the soft spring sky, carrying the voices of families and the laughter of children. But it turned only once, just a single rotation, on the eve of a catastrophe that would silence everything it was meant to celebrate. Now it looms above the city like a ghost made of iron and memory, its carriages creaking faintly in the wind, a monument to a happiness that never got to live. Below it, the streets lie buried under decades of wild growth, trees pushing through cracked asphalt, vines wrapping themselves around the skeletons of apartment blocks. The windows are shattered, the curtains frozen mid-sway, as if the wind that once moved them simply stopped and never returned. Everything feels caught between moments, a city that inhaled once and never exhaled. The playground, once alive with the high-pitched shouts of children racing between slides and swings, accompanied by the metallic squeak of well-worn chains and the rhythmic thump of little feet against the ground, now stands silent and hollow, hosting only shadows that stretch unnaturally long over the cracked, sun-bleached concrete, bending and twisting like tentative, hesitant fingers reaching out desperately for moments of laughter and joy that vanished long ago. Toys lie scattered across the dusty, uneven ground. A doll with one glassy, vacant eye staring blindly at the sky. A ball half buried in creeping moss. Its faded colors a ghost of games once played. Each object a frozen heartbeat of interrupted lives. Tiny stories that ended before they could fully bloom. Each one a mute witness to absence in the inexorable passage of time. Graffiti sprawls across walls, faded, peeling, and chipped, whispering the forgotten voices of people who once tried to leave a mark. Hastily scrawled names, dates that hint at lives long since abandoned, drawings of suns, flowers, and impossible dreams, all a desperate, fragile assertion that someone, somewhere, had once existed here, had once mattered, had once touched the world in ways now erased. The scent that hangs in the air is a strange and unsettling mixture of decay and growth. A pungent perfume of crumbling wood, rusting metal, and damp stone intertwined with the sudden sweetness of wildflowers, pushing stubbornly through cracks in the concrete. Creating a strange alchemy that speaks simultaneously of death and of life refusing to yield, of resilience thriving in the margins where no one dares to look. Streetlights lean like drunken sentinels over the empty, debris-strewn avenues, their fractured bulbs flickering erratically, casting jagged, fractured patterns of light and shadow onto walls and asphalt, as though the city itself has forgotten not only how to illuminate its own streets, but even how to remember the lives that once moved beneath its glow. In the darkened apartment buildings, curtains hang in tatters, swaying gently with every whisper of wind that sneaks through broken windows, like the spectral arms of invisible children who remember, just barely, the motion and joy of play, ghosts of laughter caught in a permanent loop, brushing softly against walls that no longer hold warmth or sound. The library shelves bow under the oppressive weight of forgotten knowledge, lined with books whose spines are stiff and yellowed, their pages whispering in a language of silence, stories trapped in mid-sentence because there is no longer anyone to read them, their words hovering in the dim, dusty air like motes of dust dancing slowly in the faint shafts of light that pierce cracked windows. In shadowed corners of the city, animals move like quiet invaders, reclaiming streets with soft pads of fur and feathers, filling the silence with life that never asked permission, their eyes reflecting the remnants of a world that once belonged to humans, yet now belongs only in part to them, carrying the unspoken message that nature does not forgive neglect. Rust blooms across railings, staircases, and forgotten vehicles, slowly eating through metal with patient persistence, a reminder that even in absolute stillness, time never ceases its work, its invisible fingers spreading decay in a quiet, almost reverent ceremony that leaves behind beauty only visible to the observant eye. Murals painted on school walls, once luminous with ideals of hope, progress, and future promise, now crumble and bleed into the concrete, their brilliant colors dissolving like tears sliding down stone faces, a sorrowful lament etched in pigment, telling anyone who dares to look that even dreams are fragile when abandoned to the relentless march of neglect. Telephone wires sag in melancholy arcs above the deserted streets, humming faintly in the restless wind, carrying echoes of conversations cut short, laughter caught mid-phrase, words left unfinished, lives paused in perpetual limbo, their resonance lingering like a ghostly chord of human existence still vibrating faintly in the empty air. The supermarket, frozen in a moment somewhere between normalcy and abandonment, holds cans and boxes still meticulously aligned on dusty shelves, their labels peeling, colors faded. Images of abundance staring mockingly at the emptiness surrounding them. A silent reminder of human habits, commerce, and desires now abandoned to dust and silence. Beneath the skeletal Ferris wheel, grass grows long and lush, curling around the edges of cracked asphalt, softening the hard geometry of human construction, creating a quiet, almost sacred sanctuary where silence reigns supreme, occasionally broken only by the distant creak and groan of rusted iron swaying gently in the wind. Even the wind seems different here, moving with slow deliberation, carrying whispers from walls, from trees, and from the hollowed remains of buildings. A voice older than the city itself, teaching that memory is not bound to flesh or stone, that it can breathe long after human presence has faded and all that remains is echoes and dust. And sometimes, just for a fleeting heartbeat, the air shivers as if with recognition, as though the world itself remembers the lives that once passed through these streets. Footsteps, laughter, hurried conversations, not your, not mine, but theirs, moving invisibly through the same doors, along the same sidewalks, lingering like a memory that refuses to dissolve, suspended eternally between what was and what remains. The year was 1986, when fire met Adam, and the night sky over Chernobyl glowed an unholy blue. The explosion at Reactor 4 did not just tear through steel and stone, it tore through time itself. It changed the rhythm of life, the trust between man and nature, the illusion that progress was always safe. In that single blinding flash, brief enough to be mistaken for a heartbeat, yet vast enough to divide history in two, the world seemed to stutter, falter, and lose its rhythm, as if even the air itself forgot how to move, how to breathe, how to exist. Clouds gathered without warning, rolling in heavy and strange, glowing faintly at the torn edges like wounded halos, soft, trembling rings of light that looked almost holy, if holiness could bleed. Birds fell from the sky in eerie silence, their wings catching the ghostly shimmer of a light that had no right to exist, their small bodies spinning downward through a stillness so absolute it felt like the end of sound itself. The river below turned unnaturally calm, its once moving surface now reflecting ash and fire in equal measure. A mirror too frightened to remember what it once was, too shaken to look back at what it had just witnessed. Men in uniforms, young, sweating, terrified, but still obedient to orders larger than fear, ran toward the light instead of away from it, carrying shovels instead of rifles, unaware that with each step, they were walking straight into the open mouth of history. The air crackled with invisible fire, a heat that burned without flame, that left no scars on the skin but branded everything it touched. The trees, the dust, the living, the dead, with an imprint that would outlast generations. Windows shattered in unison, though no wind had moved, and the echo of their breaking lingered long after the glass had fallen, hanging in the air like a cry torn from a throat that no longer had a mouth to speak it. Some swore they heard the night itself scream, a sound too vast for human ears, a raw and wordless agony that split the sky in two and sank deep into the bones of the earth, where it still hums softly beneath the ground. And when morning finally came, slow and trembling, the dawn looked pale and uncertain, almost artificial, as though the sun, too, was afraid to rise over a world it no longer recognized. In those first hours, families were told it was nothing, a temporary precaution, a small accident soon to be fixed. They packed what they could carry, a coat, a photograph, a child's toy, believing they would return in a few days. But those days stretched into decades, and now Pripyat stands like a sealed memory, a museum built not by hands but by absence. Inside the school gym, gas masks still lie scattered across the wooden floor, their straps tangled like forgotten vines. Some are so small they could only have fit a child's face. Desks remain where they were left, papers yellowed, lessons half erased, chalk still faintly clinging to cracked blackboards, as though the teacher might return at any moment to finish the day's equations. The silence here is not empty. It hums, almost breathes. It moves through the air like something alive. When the wind passes, doors creak open and slam softly shut again, as though the city itself exhales, restless and uneasy. Those who dare to explore these ruins speak of faint laughter echoing in the distance, or of music that flickers through static on old radios. Songs trapped in the frequencies of a place that refuses to be forgotten. The Geiger counters never fall silent. They tick and hiss softly, a deadly lullaby that seems almost rhythmic, almost soothing, if not for what it means. It is the forest's new heartbeat, the steady pulse of invisible danger that never fades. They say radiation cannot be seen or touched, that it is an absence, not a thing. Yet here in Pripyat, it feels like something alive, something that breathes beneath your skin, invisible fingers brushing across your face as you move through the ruins. The amusement park, once the promise of a future celebration, now rusts quietly, its carousel leaning, its bumper cars frozen mid-turn. Yet even in this decay, you can still sense the echo of joy. The laughter of children seems to cling to the air, bright and fleeting, refusing to die completely. At night, When the fog rolls in from the Pripyat River, the city glows faintly, wrapped in a pale, spectral light. The outlines of buildings fade in and out like ghosts remembering their shape. Wild animals roam freely through the streets now. Wolves, boars, wild foxes, birds that no longer fear humans, for humanity itself has become the intruder here. And yet, even amid this strange rebirth of nature, reclaiming what was lost, the city feels watched, not by eyes but by memory, the gaze of everything that once was. Every shattered window seems to look back at you. Every rusted swing seems to remember the hands that once held it. Pripyat was once a symbol of Soviet pride, the model city of progress and promise, home to engineers and dreamers who believed the future could be built with concrete and light. Now it stands as a warning carved into history, a silent testament to how fragile that dream truly was. Every step within its borders feels sacred, like walking through the remnants of someone else's dream. A dream that ended mid-sentence, left hanging in the air. And some say that if you stand beneath the Ferris wheel at dusk, when the last light touches its rim, you can hear it, the faint sound of children laughing, carried on the breeze from nowhere. Maybe it's imagination, or maybe, in a place like this, some laughter simply refuses to fade. Bran Castle, Transylvania, Romania. There is a silence in the mountains of Romania that feels almost sacred, a stillness so deep and heavy that it seems to press against the chest of anyone who dares step near. And at its center stands Bran Castle, cold, proud, and eternally awake, a sentinel of stone watching over valleys that have long forgotten the footsteps of kings and travelers alike. Perched between drifting mists and jagged mountain peaks, it watches over the valley like a vigilant guardian, as if waiting for centuries of secrets and whispered stories to reveal themselves to anyone brave enough to enter. Its stone walls, rough and ancient, carry the scent of centuries, the lingering smoke from long extinguished fires, the sweat of soldiers and servants long gone, and something faintly metallic, like the memory of blood and iron that refuses to fade from these halls. Once a fortress, later a royal residence, it has survived empires, revolutions, and countless storms. Yet it remains bound irrevocably to one name, Dracula, a shadow that clings to the castle like fog around the mountains at dawn. The myth was born from ink and terror, spun by storytellers and scribes. But in Bran Castle, it found flesh, echoing through corridors and stairwells, murmuring through cracks in stone and under the vaulted ceilings like a presence you cannot escape. By day, its towers rise in solemn silence, their jagged spires piercing the sky, but never quite catching the sunlight, as if the heavens themselves keep a cautious, almost fearful distance, unwilling to touch the heights that have witnessed centuries of sorrow and whispered secrets. The courtyard exhales the faint, persistent scent of damp earth mixed with candle wax, carrying the weight of prayers once offered not in devotion, but in trembling fear, their echoes folded into the stones themselves, lingering like a memory that refuses to fade. Some say the stones remember every voice of the condemned, every plea and cry uttered in the final moments of despair, that if you press your ear against the cold, rough surface, you might catch the faintest murmur, a single breath of desperation swallowed by time, yet refusing to die entirely. Iron gates swing open with a sound that is never quite metal, but more like the tired sigh of a spirit long bound to this place, heavy with grief, weary from centuries of witnessing what the living would rather forget. Inside, the air feels thick and almost sentient, vibrating with the soft hum of invisible eyes that watch from every shadowed corner where light dares not linger. As if the castle itself is alive and patiently observing all who enter. Paintings lining the halls crack and peel, their colors fading into ghostly outlines, revealing faint faces beneath layers of plaster and varnish, visages that were never meant to be seen, that whisper their presence to those who dare linger. In the great hall, the fireplace lies cold, yet visitors swear they can smell the ghost of smoke, both sweet and acrid, lingering like a fire that has never truly died, a remnant of a warmth long extinguished but never forgotten. A draft moves through the corridors in slow, deliberate breaths, carrying the soft rustle of silks, chains, and footsteps that belong to no living person, as though the walls themselves remember the passage of those who once roamed here, their echoes trapped in the very air. Even the mirrors seem reluctant to reflect, their glass clouded with a haze that feels intentional, as if the surfaces are tired of showing what should remain unseen, aware that some truths are better left unspoken. And somewhere deep in the castle's heart, beneath layers of stone and memory, the place hums with presence, vast, patient, and knowing, as though it waits for something inevitable, something it has long anticipated, while time moves through it like a river that never quite flows in a straight line. At the very top of the tallest tower, where the sky seems thinner and the clouds drift like ghosts, the wind carries voices that are at once distant and intimately close, whispers of laughter and sorrow, warnings half remembered, half forgotten, moving through the stones as if the tower itself is speaking in a language older than any human tongue. Footsteps echo across hallways where no living soul has tread for decades, perhaps centuries, and the floorboards shiver with memory, remembering the weight of those who walked here long ago. Their bodies turn to dust, but their presence lingering in every groan and creak. Sometimes, a door swings open with agonizing slowness, revealing nothing more than shadow, a shape that retreats the instant you force your gaze upon it, leaving behind only the faintest trace of air disturbed, and the certainty that something unseen has been observing you all along. In the library, the scent of old parchment hangs heavy and sweet, almost breathing, as if the words themselves exhale in quiet remembrance of every secret ever penned within these walls. Confessions, oaths, curses, and prayers folded into the fibers of time, waiting for a witness. And if you stand perfectly still in the Hall of Ancestors, listening to the quiet hum of the castle around you, you might feel the gaze of centuries pressing gently into your soul, insistent, patient, and profound, a silent audience that measures your presence as carefully as you measure theirs, aware of everything you bring and everything you leave behind. When night falls, the castle transforms. Shadows stretch unnaturally. Corridors twist in ways that seem impossible, and every sound seems to emerge from just behind you, as though the castle itself listens and reacts. Candles flicker as if disturbed by unseen breath, and the windows frost over even in summer, coating the glass with a thin layer of icy silence that separates you from the world outside. Those who stay overnight report hearing footsteps on the stairs long after the last guard has left, a slow, deliberate cadence that seems almost impatient, like a reminder that some visitors never truly leave. Sometimes, laughter, faint, noble, cruel, drifts through the great hall, echoing off the walls, curling around vaulted ceilings, and leaving a chill that travels from spine to skull. Portraits of long-dead nobles seem to follow your gaze, their painted eyes gleaming faintly in the torchlight, holding the secrets of centuries in those glassy, immortal stares. Local folklore says the castle feeds on fear, that every gasp, every shiver, every nervous glance strengthens the invisible bond between legend and stone, weaving belief into the very mortar of the walls. Wolves howl from the forest below, their cries intertwining with the moan of wind, forming a chorus that rises to the towers and mingles with the castle's ancient memory. The villagers refuse to look up at the castle at midnight, fearing that even a glance toward its looming silhouette might invite the shadows within to follow them home. Lightning dances over the towers during storms, illuminating the chapel's cross, cracked, tilted, yet defiantly upright, a symbol of endurance that has withstood both time and superstition. Bats circle above the highest turret, their wings catching silver in the moonlight, dipping and gliding as though rehearsing an aerial ballet written by the darkness itself. In one hidden room, they say a coffin rests, carved from black oak, its lids sealed for centuries against prying eyes and curious hands, a silent promise of secrets that refuse to be disturbed. Those who dare to knock upon it claim to hear a soft thud in reply, a heartbeat from the past, answering in a language only the brave or the foolish might understand. No one stays long enough to listen twice, for fear and respect intertwine, reminding them that some mysteries are not meant to be lingered upon. Bran Castle breathes at night, not with lungs, but with memory, inhaling the fear, awe, and whispers of everyone who has ever dared to step inside, becoming a living chronicle of centuries of human imagination and superstition. It is not cursed, it is alive, nourished by centuries of belief, myth, and the stories people tell in the dark, feeding on the imagination of those who enter its halls. To walk its halls is to step into a story that refuses to end. A tale that twists through corridors and stairways, over stone floors and beneath shadowed windows, lingering long after you leave. And when you leave, the wind follows, carrying a single whisper through the Carpathian mist, brushing across the peaks and forests, a voice that lingers in the ear and heart alike. The night never leaves Bran, it only waits for your return. Tower of London, England. There is no silence quite like the one that lingers after centuries of screams, and nowhere does it hang more heavily than the Tower of London, where every stone seems soaked with sorrow and memory, pressing invisibly against anyone who dares to enter. For almost a millennium, its gray, weathered walls have absorbed the fear, rage, and despair of those who walked through its gates, those who entered seeking justice, glory, or punishment, and never walked out alive. Once a royal palace, it became a prison, a place where love, loyalty, and life could end in a whisper, a word, a betrayal, or a simple accusation of treason that would seal your fate forever. Built upon ancient, almost sacred ground, its foundations seem to pulse with the slow, relentless heartbeat of the city above, an eternal rhythm that vibrates beneath the cobblestones and echoes through the tower's halls. Sometimes, when the rain falls against its weathered stone walls, it sounds less like weather and more like weeping, a soft, unending lament that seeps from the cracks and corners, as though the centuries themselves are mourning their own slow decay, refusing to fade quietly into the silence they were promised. In the dim corridors, torches flicker and strain against the damp, their flames bending and trembling in ways that feel almost human, as if even the light is afraid of what lingers in the air, of what might be watching just beyond the reach of its fragile glow. The air here does not simply exist, it listens. It presses close around you, thick and trembling with the weight of voices that never learned how to die. Whispers without mouths, sighs without breath, memories that still pulse faintly, desperate to be remembered. Even the walls seem alive with memory, leaning inward like patient witnesses who have heard too much and can no longer look away, holding, within their cold embrace, the faint echo of every scream, every prayer, every desperate sound that has ever touched their surface and refused to leave. It is a place where time folds upon itself like worn fabric, the edges fraying but never tearing, where the present kneels beside the past in reverent silence, both aware of the other's presence, neither brave enough to speak first. And so the world holds its breath, waiting for something that has already happened to happen again. And in that silence, that deep, echoing stillness that seems to stretch between one breath and the next, the tower feels almost alive, not merely standing but breathing through its stones, exhaling the chill of centuries, inhaling the warmth of whatever living soul dares to enter its domain. It dreams in shadows that move when no one watches, and waits, patient, ancient, unblinking, for the next story to begin, for the next name to be whispered into its endless memory. Those who linger too long within its walls often swear they can feel something stirring beneath their palms when they press against the cold stone. A faint rhythmic pulse, slow and deliberate, like a heart that has forgotten why it beats but continues out of habit, out of grief. Some say it's the echo of every heartbeat the tower has ever claimed. The ghost of lifetimes condensed into one trembling vibration that hums quietly beneath the surface. A reminder that even stone, when it remembers enough sorrow, can learn how to live. The ravens circle above it still, their dark wings slicing through the London mist like blades of fate, shadows dancing across the walls, carrying with them the weight of legend and superstition. They say as long as the ravens stay, England will never fall, but perhaps they linger only to feed upon the ghosts of history, consuming memory and sorrow with silent wings. Inside, time feels fractured. Every corridor leads not just to rooms, but to memories, echoes of agony, defiance, and whispered secrets that cling to the walls and ceilings like cobwebs. The execution of Anne Boleyn, the betrayal of Lady Jane Grey, the imprisonment of Elizabeth of Furnra. Each story is etched into the tower's bones, visible not in paint or stone alone, but in the lingering tension that never seems to leave. Even the stones seem to weep on cold nights, when the fog from the Thames crawls up the gates and seeps through cracks, carrying with it a chill that makes the past feel unbearably close. Guards have reported hearing prayers whispered in long-forgotten chapels, the clinking of chains from towers sealed for centuries, and soft footfalls in corridors where no living soul should tread. The shadow of the two lost princes, Edward and Richard, is said to appear near the White Tower, their tiny hands clasped, eyes full of silent pleading, a spectral reminder of innocence stolen by ambition. Tourists sometimes feel an unseen tug on their clothes or a sudden chill that lingers in places that should be warm, as if the tower itself remembers and reaches for those who walk its halls. In the Martin Tower, the ghost of Sir Walter Raleigh is said to still pace, muttering verses to himself, unaware that centuries have passed, a solitary presence trapped between life and legend. The air smells of candle wax, iron, and centuries-old stone, like a church that never closes its wounds, a cathedral of memory that exhales grief with every breeze. Even the crows that perch on the battlements avoid the Traitor's Gate, as though something unseen waits beneath the water, watching, patient, eternal. At night, lights flicker in the towers, though the electricity is off, and footsteps echo without bodies, a symphony of absence, warning, and history. Historians call it one of Britain's greatest monuments, but those who have spent a night within its walls call it a tomb that never sleeps, alive with echoes of every life and every death it has witnessed. There are corners in the tower where even sound seems afraid to linger, where whispers die before they reach your ears, consumed by shadows that have waited centuries for company. And when the bells of London ring, some say you can hear another, fainter toll beneath them, a mourning sound from another time, another life, another death. No one knows whether the tower is cursed or merely alive, feeding silently upon the emotions of those who remember, those who tell its stories, those who dare to walk its corridors at night. Perhaps it is not haunted by the dead at all, but by the living, by all of us who cannot look away from tragedy, who feel compelled to return to history's shadow. Either way, the tower remains, cold, magnificent, and unyielding, a relic of power constructed upon endless sorrow, a monument to human ambition and fragility. And as the ravens cry against the first light of dawn, London breathes again, watched over by ghosts that never left, their eyes ever fixed upon the city that has grown above them. Gereja Ayam, Indonesia. There is a place in the Indonesian hills where the jungle swallows everything, where sunlight struggles to touch the earth, and where a dream gone mad has taken form, a massive concrete bird staring eternally into the clouds, silent and unyielding. They call it Gereja Ayam, the chicken church, though its story feels less like a marvel to behold and more like a warning whispered through moss and mist, a monument to the fragile boundary between faith and obsession. Its builder, Daniel Alamsyah, claimed he was guided by voices not of this world, divine whispers that urged him to construct a house of worship where all religions could meet as one. But somewhere along the way, between devotion and fantasy, the vision fractured, leaving behind stone and concrete instead of communion. The church stands unfinished, its enormous beak open in a silent scream, its hollow eyes gazing out over the valley like a sentinel waiting for an answer that will never come, its presence both inviting and foreboding. Pilgrims once climbed the hill, seeking miracles and divine solace, their footsteps echoing through the corridors. Now only the curious, the bold, or the foolhardy dare ascend its shadowed stairways and explore the hollow chambers within. Those who linger too long swear they can hear singing from the basement, soft, wordless hymns, voices without bodies, a melody that seems to seep from the walls themselves, haunting yet strangely comforting. By day, the church can still feel holy, touched by light and wind. But by night, shadows claim the corners, and it transforms into something haunted, a temple suspended between salvation and sin, alive with memory and expectation. Some say the church was never truly abandoned, that it breathes quietly alongside the jungle that surrounds it, inhaling mist and exhaling whispers, its heartbeat synchronized with the rustle of leaves and the sigh of distant wind. And when the moonlight strikes its crown, the concrete bird seems less like a building and more like a creature waiting to awaken, to stretch its wings and speak to the world once again. Patient, silent, eternal. Belchite, Spain. In the dry heart of Aragon, Spain, where the wind carries dust, memory, and the ghosts of the past, the ruins of Belchite still stand like open wounds upon the earth, their jagged silhouettes etched against the sky. Once a thriving town, Belchite was torn apart during the Spanish Civil War, its streets becoming graveyards of shattered faith, lost dreams, and humanity caught in the crossfire of history's cruelty. The battle that raged here in 1937 left nothing but rubble, silence, and ghosts who refused to leave their homes, lingering in corners, peering through broken windows, forever trapped between life and memory. The government built a new Belchite nearby, a town of fresh walls and brighter hope. Yet the old one was left untouched, preserved as a monument to destruction, despair, and the resilience of memory. Walk through its broken archways, step over cracked stones, and you can still smell the ashes of fire, still feel the tremor of artillery buried beneath decades, vibrations echoing faintly in the air. The church bell towers remain cracked and hollow, their shadows stretching long across the ruins like skeletal fingers searching for salvation that never came. Visitors describe hearing phantom footsteps on cobblestone streets, the rhythm of soldiers marching through fog and memory, boots striking stones that have long since forgotten the living. Some claim to hear whispered prayers rising from beneath the rubble, voices of mothers calling for sons who never returned. The tone of grief so raw it seems to linger in the air itself. Even in the bright light of day, the air feels heavy, trembling with echoes of gunfire, cries, and the weight of lives undone, as though the town itself remembers what it endured. At night, the ruins glow pale under the cold light of the moon, and the silence turns almost human. A low, mournful hum that fills the empty homes, drifts through doorways, and settles into the cracked stones. Locals avoid entering after dusk, claiming that the spirits of Belchite still replay the battle each night, trapped in an endless loop of death and sorrow, unable to move on or forgive. Film crews and photographers often capture strange myths, drifting lights, and shadowy shapes that defy explanation. Fleeting glimpses of what the eyes of history can sometimes perceive. It is as if the town itself remembers too vividly to rest. Each wall, each fragment of masonry bleeding history, each ruin breathing the agony of its past. To walk through Belchite is to step into a memory that refuses to fade, to witness a town that never truly laid down its arms, a battlefield frozen in time yet alive in its echoes. Here, the past does not sleep. It waits patiently, whispering through dust, rubble, and ruin, calling to those who dare to listen, warning them that some histories cannot be forgotten, only remembered. Varosha, Famagusta, Northern Cyprus. Beyond the fences of Famagusta, behind warning signs bleached and cracked by salt and the relentless sun, lies Varosha, a city trapped in an endless yesterday, frozen in the amber of memory and abandonment. In the 1960s and 70s, it was the beating heart of Cypriot luxury, where models, movie stars, and millionaires strolled along sunlit promenades, their laughter carried on the breeze like music made visible. Then came the invasion, swift, merciless, and unrelenting. And in a single summer, Varosha fell silent, its heartbeat stilled, leaving everything suspended in a perfect, eerie stillness. Its people ran, leaving behind furniture, clothes, and dreams, promising to return within days. But days became decades, and the gates never reopened, sealing a city in perpetual pause. Today, the city stands untouched, as if the moment of abandonment has been replaying over and over. Every street, every building, every window frozen in memory. Inside, rooms remain as they were, typewriters with unfinished letters, glasses on bars half full and now layered in dust, beds made but never slept in, televisions still poised as if waiting for a broadcast that never came. No one lives here, yet no one dares to call it dead. It hums with a presence that is unseen but undeniably felt, breathing softly through its hollow corridors. The skyline of half-collapsed hotels rises like a mirage in the distance. Beautiful, mournful, untouchable, suspended between the present and memory. For years, explorers have tried to document it, but cameras fail, drones crash, and electronics die, as if Varosha rejects intrusion, refusing to let the living rewrite its story. And so it waits, perched on the edge of the Mediterranean, a city suspended between history and dream, a monument to paradise lost, the ghost of time itself, whispering to anyone willing to listen.